Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson. That is Greywind, who's really excited by the hammerings going on in the north as we bring you a review and recap of Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 10, The Winds of Winter.
Winter is here.
That's wind.
Now be warned, we're going to fully spoil this episode of Game of Thrones, so if you haven't seen it, you might not want to come back next time. The trial of Cersei Lannister and Loras Tyrell begins until Master Pycelle is led by a child into a dark room and he is stabbed! Ah! Loras kneels in front of the High Sparrow and promises to give up his names and his titles when suddenly the mountain stops King Tommen from going to the trial. Then Marjorie notices that Cersei is not there. Then we see Lancel the Sparrow being led underneath the city. He gets stabbed and he sees all the wildfire and boom! The entire city goes up and all the sparrows die. King Tommen watches all of this and he gets sad and he jumps out the window. So part of King's Landing blew up, Cersei took out all of her enemies, and her son is dead. Let's talk a little bit about this. This is a lot to unwrap.
It is a lot. I actually thought that King Tommen was definitely going to be dead this episode. I predicted that a couple episodes ago, but I think the way that they address this is really, really tragic. It kind of makes him like Rickon to me. He is the sacrificial lamb of the Lannister family. And this sets up a really interesting story for Jaime and Cersei, I think, going forward.
Now, in the Inside the Game of Thrones, the little extra show that they do at the end, the producers of the show said that they think that Tommen wouldn't have jumped out the window if Cersei had actually been there for her son.
Yeah.
Because they said that they made the scene like Tommen watched his whole world go away, and he felt that Cersei wasn't part of that world, and that's the reason why he jumped. I am shocked that basically King's Landing is a disaster zone now. And because of this, let's just skip right to the end. Cersei, through this whole machination, is now crowned queen of Westeros.
She is, because there are no other successors standing in her way, although I think it's interesting because now King's Landing is both physically and representationally ripe for the picking by an overlord because nobody's a real big fan of Cersei at this point.
Also, we have another interesting setup that there is now a mad queen, just like before the series. And also, again, we've noted this throughout the season, another female leader.
And I will say this, which might spoil the final scene, but Jaime is known as the Kingslayer, and he doesn't seem terribly pleased about the way events went down either.
No, we have a Cersei that has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And she's kind of crazy because she doesn't have her children. The one thing that always kept her sane. I think we have a new Mad Queen in Westeros, and things are going to go terribly. I think genocide is going to happen. I think all kinds of things. I think people are going to be murdering left and right, and they're going to be leaving King's Landing like crazy. I think this is going to be the setup. Daenerys is like, I'm coming for the Iron Throne, and everybody's like, we don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
Take it. This city is terrible. Jaime and Bronn are feasting at the twins as Walder Frey makes the toast, and Jaime basically insults Walder Frey behind his back, and Jaime notices a girl looking at him, but that'll become important later. Sam and Gilly arrive at Old Town. They go to the Citadel, and Sam has a very silly scene with a librarian, and he gets to see the great library of the Maesters. Davos confronts Melisandre about Shireen's death, and Jon tells Melisandre, get the hell out of Winterfell. If you ever come back up here, I'm gonna kill ya. So Jon and Sansa have a touching scene on top of the wall of Winterfell where it's revealed that winter is finally here. What did you think about that scene, and what do you think that the winter is finally here? Because Ned Stark loved to say that all the time in the first season.
It's pretty much his tagline. I thought this scene was fascinating from a visual standpoint because one of the first times you meet Catelyn and Ned together, they're standing on a parapet overlooking Winterfell. So here we have...
Yeah, they're watching the kids train.
They are.
Yeah.
Here we have their spiritual successors, one who is not actually really Ned's son, but is Ned's spiritual successor and Catelyn's spiritual successor, and they're prepping to lead Winterfell forward into the next age of its life. I think the fact that winter is coming also speaks to the coming war and the struggles that are going to come with that as well. And I'm interested to see how much this element and the winter and the freezing and the cold comes to play, because it's very different circumstances than anyone's had to deal with going this far.
And they said that's going to be the coldest winter in
1,000 years.
We then go to a scene where the Tyrells meet with the Sand Snakes in Dorne, and it's learned that Varys is there, and suddenly they need to have an alliance.
We then go back to Meereen, where Daenerys tells Dario that she cannot have him be her lover over in Westeros because marriage is the best thing that she can offer any possible alliance. She tells Tyrion that she's done it. He's sympathetic for her. She awesomely makes him the Hand of the King, and we get an insight into the fact that Tyrion might be the most loyal person in all of Westeros, in all of Game of Thrones. What did you think about him pledging himself to this woman that he'd barely met?
I like it. because he said that he's been looking for something to believe for years. And I thought that Peter Dinklage did a great thing because Tyrion has had one of the greatest character arcs, I thought, of the entire series. Like, he shows up in the first season and he's womanizing and he just doesn't care and he's a
slapping.
drunk. And it took the belief that his family's quite terrible to kind of bring him back to life. And now I think he sees a woman who says that we're not going to make the mistakes that our fathers have made, which I think is very appealing to him. He had a terrible father. And I think this is why he will be 100% loyal to her. He will not betray her at all. I think this is pure intention Tyrion as a hero, which is interesting that both the male Lannisters are getting hero arcs now. They're both about how can we actually be good and upstanding men, whereas Cersei is just going crazy.
I want to ask you, there's an inevitable showdown between Jaime and Tyrion, both of whom have looked out for each other in the past. Do you think they're both making it out of that alive?
I think Tyrion tries to convince his brother.
Okay.
And I think his brother will be very leery because he loves Cersei.
He'll have to choose between Tyrion and Cersei.
He'll have to choose between Cersei and Tyrion. I think Tyrion will try to convince him. Jaime will not take it. Jaime will stick with Cersei. I still say Jaime dies by Arya's hand.
Aww.
I think Arya. And speaking of Arya, we see Arya in the next scene because we go back to Walter Frey, and she serves Walter Frey his sons,
his 2 sons,
in a meat stew, very Titus Andronicus like.
Very Sweeney Todd like, with the thumb in the pie and everything.
And she uses one of the faces, kills Walter Frey, knocking another person. We're back to the list of people that she has to kill, and it explains because her face was the girl that we saw earlier in the scene. She was eyeing Jaime like, I'm gonna kill you. I think that now, because of this scene, I think Arya's in King's Landing now.
I couldn't believe that Arya was already in Westeros.
Well, we're gonna.
You don't think she's gonna head to Winterfell?
No, I think she has her sights on Jaime because to her,
of course.
she has no idea that Winterfell. I mean, I assume she'll eventually hear about it, but I think she has no idea that Winterfell is back in friendly hands.
Right, and as far as she knows, Sansa at least is still in King's Landing.
As far as she knows, Sansa is still in King's Landing, captured by Tyrion. As far as she knows,
they're all still alive. As far as she knows,
they're all still alive, and as far as she knows, Winterfell is in control by Theon.
Yes.
You know, so she's kind of behind the scenes here a little bit.
Yeah.
So like, I think she'll get the news. I think she's in King's Landing. I think she's tracking Jaime like a fox.
Speaking of Winterfell, we head there next. We see Sansa sitting beneath the weirwood tree where her creepy Uncle Littlefinger proposes to her, and she blatantly turns him down.
Then we go back to the wall where Benjen leaves Mira and Bran behind because he reveals that the wall has dark magic inside it that keeps them away. Bran touches the weirwood and he goes back to the Tower of Joy, and we finally see the scene that we've been waiting for since season 1. Ned Stark sees his sister give birth, and she makes him promise to protect the baby because Robert will kill it.
And if you turned your speakers up really, really loud, she said that Lyanna says that his name is Jon.
Yes.
So we have confirmation of Jon Snow's parentage once and for all.
Jon Snow is a Targaryen.
Yes.
And Jon Snow is the nephew of Daenerys Targaryen.
Who's creepily the same age.
Yes. Now, interestingly enough, they do not confirm whether Rhaegar kidnapped Lyanna or they went off together.
Yes.
They do not confirm
I
it.
think that is something that will remain ambiguous.
Forever?
Throughout. I do.
Okay. Now, we all kind of knew this was coming. The big reveal finally happened because we faded into Jon Snow's face because we know that little baby is Jon Snow.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I think that was a cute little baby. I don't find this wholly surprising because it has been a really popular fan theory for a long time. I'm glad it is finally out there, so we know that Jon is going to go up against Daenerys. They might try to make them marry because the Targaryens are fond of marrying their siblings, which I think would be creepy. And it puts Jon in a position of power leading into this next scene.
The interesting thing about this as well, yes, you're talking about the position of power. In the very next scene, basically all the families of the North, very similar to the scene from season 1, where all the North families pledge to Jon Snow and make him the king of the North. And there's a little exchange between Sansa and Littlefinger.
Yes, and there is awesomely, little Lady Mormont starts off the kneeling and the praising.
Now, I like that this beckoned back to that season 1 scene. I remember before, and very early in the season, I said that they were going to anoint him the King of the North by the end of the season. I do think he's going to get his proper name, because I think there's a reason why Sansa mentioned it earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
She was like, you're basically a Stark to me. I think they're eventually just going to give it to him. They're just going to be like, just start calling yourself Stark, just like Ramsay Bolton, because I think the whole reason why we saw the Ramsay Bolton bastard thing was to show that, hey, if we can do it for Ramsay, we can do it for Jon. Interestingly enough, Jon Snow, the one male anointed leader of a pretty heavily female leadership now.
Right, but this is a patriarchy, boo, which means that Jon could make the claim, if he learns that he's the Targaryen, if Bran gets that knowledge to him, that his claim is more legitimate than Daenerys to the Iron Throne, if it comes down to that.
Very true. And then, of course, we go to the final scene where we see all the ships heading out of Marine, the dragons flying along, and Daenerys on her ship with all the Dothraki ready to come to Westeros. And I would predict they're probably going to Dorne to pick up more soldiers.
Right. Or at least to pick up the Sand Snakes, who are pretty proficient in and of themselves.
So overall, let's break this down and give this episode a rating. Really quickly, let's talk. What did you think about the Season 6 finale of Game of Thrones?
I think this is the best finale we've ever had from Game of Thrones, because traditionally the 9th episode of the season is amazing, and the previous episode was amazing, and then the 10th episode is a lot of setup and nonsense and sometimes slightly racist stuff for the coming season. We had a lot of stuff going on here.
And shockingly enough, nothing of the White King and the White Walkers.
No, but that'll come. That will definitely come. But I think that they managed to keep all this...
Well, winter is here.
Well, yes. They managed to keep all the scenes, while brief, jam-packed full of interesting...
There's so much to talk about.
If you do stuff, it's interesting. I don't know why it took you 6 seasons to get a great finale, but this was a stellar finale.
All right, so let's give a rating here, and then I would love to hear what was your least favorite scene, because it's a strong finale, and your best scene.
Okay.
Well, so what was your rating in the episode?
Well,
out of 1 to 5 direwolf heads. I'm losing myself because there's so much Game of Thrones.
I would definitely give this 5 direwolf heads. This was an awesome episode. Loved it. How about you?
I'm going to break the mold, and I am going to give this 5 direwolf heads plus 1 more for a 6 direwolf heads score. I agree with you. This is the best finale of Game of Thrones they ever had.
To date.
This had purpose. This had emotion. This had great music, a great score. Like the score, the musical score of this show does not get enough purpose. If I was to pick my favorite scene of this entire episode, it's tough. I think I have to give it to the King of the North, to Jon, because it paralleled that season 1, which has been my favorite season up to this point.
Yeah.
I think this is a strong season that, I don't know, like season 6 might be my favorite season now. It's so strong.
If not, it's tied with season 1 for my favorite season.
So that would be my favorite scene, because I love how much it paralleled, full circleness. My least favorite scene probably in this finale was either the scene with Jaime just like insulting Walder Frey.
Yeah.
Or a little bit of, a little hair of the final shot of Daenerys on the ships, because I love the setup of the ships and everything like that, and I love the dragons. But then they went to this close-up of Daenerys, and Daenerys kind of did this derp face, and she's like, and I'm like, what are you doing, Emilia Clarke? You should be like, I am the dragon lady, I am the queen. But instead she was just like, is that salt? You know? What was your best scene, your worst scene?
The best scene is the King of the North scene. I'm particularly fond of that because, again, I love the little actress who's playing Lady Mormont.
She's great.
She killed it. She's such a force to be reckoned with in a room full of old men. She nailed it. So I like that she got that moment, and I'm hoping that we see more of her in the coming seasons. My least favorite scene is probably when Daenerys has to make Dario go on his way, and then she talks to Tyrion. Because frankly, Daenerys is a really overrated character, and I'm sick of everybody falling in love with her, and I hate the fact that we now have it implied, you can go right over there, bye. I hate that we now have it implied that Tyrion is in love with her. I think that's a garbage choice.
I think that implication is reading too much into it. I did not read any of that. Okay, I disagree with you completely on that.
That's fine.
I do not read Tyrion as in love with her, because this is a different Tyrion. I read this as Tyrion being like, I believe in you, not love. Like, not romantic love. Like, I actually think you can pull this off. That's why I'm going to follow you. I didn't read any of, like, oh, you're so pretty.
Well, he said, like, oh, everybody falls in love with you. Like, nobody says that as a compliment. They say that to hide, I love you.
Oh, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think we're past whoring around Tyrion.
Well, that's my opinion, so it's still valid.
And it's all valid. And now we're going to make some predictions for next season of Game of Thrones. Ashley, do you have any crazy predictions based on this finale?
I do have a crazy prediction that I sort of alluded to earlier. So now we have the Mad Queen, and I think she is going to need to be stopped at any point, regardless of who's going to be taken over. And I think that, like I said, Jaime's called the Kingslayer. Kings and queens are not wholly undifferent, and I think that he loves Tyrion enough, and he's going to be mad enough at Cersei because Tyrion's talking enough sense. The final scene with the Lannister twins is it's going to be Jaime is going to have to kill Cersei.
Interesting.
Tragically. And then he'll hold her in his arms and he'll cry and hug her a little bit.
I think that next season is going to be about the kings and queens, or mostly queens of Westeros, fighting amongst each other. And them all taking each other out.
Yep.
I actually have a prediction that we will not see the White Walkers much next season because they will be in the final season.
They are the final battle, as Jon says.
Yes, I think they are the final battle. And I think all these armies will, like, sort of hurt each other and destroy each other and stuff like that. Or Daenerys might be like the leader, like the best army. Yep. And then here come the White Walkers and they're like, oh, we're all screwed. And then we're going to spend the whole season fighting the White Walkers. I think Bran comes past the wall, and that is how the White Walkers get past the wall.
Yep.
And I think that the second episode to last, you know how like the episode right before the finale is always the Battle of the Bastards, whatever?
Yep.
That is the battle of the White Walkers coming past the wall and bringing that wall down.
It's the battle for Westeros.
It is the battle for Westeros, and that is happening next season. We'll see the White Walkers come past the wall. The Night's Watch will end, and the wall will come down.
So overall, we thought that this was a kick-ass episode of Game of Thrones, a kick-ass season, a kick-ass finale. We really, really liked it. Just to let you know that this video was brought to you by Majorspoilers.com, the comic book website where they love comics, and they know that you do too. And if you want more geeky content, you can check out our new show, Jason Talks Geek.
Guys, don't forget every single week on Fridays, if you like our little theories, hop on by to Jason Talks Geek. Make sure you hit subscribe to this channel and you're going to check it out. Now, there are going to be some Game of Thrones videos on this channel in the future to carry you through to the next season. It won't be weekly, but we're going to be doing some research, like some videos like how do you actually kill a White Walker? How could you stop the White Walkers? And like Secrets of Winterfell. Ooh. So some stuff like that to interest you, to keep us going until next season, along with Arrow videos, Flash videos, and all kinds of other videos. So don't forget to click subscribe. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson. This has been Grey Wind this whole season.
And stay warm because winter is here, and I've heard the direwolves are warm.